Hello everybody, Allison Steinberg here with LindellTV. We are joined this morning by Representative Keith Self, who represents Texas's 3rd Congressional District. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, we're excited to have you and talk about the latest developments. The House just last night advanced the $900 billion National Defense Authorization Act. It was a 215 to 211 vote, and I know you were a no vote. Tell us why. What's going on with that?
I was a no vote because this should be, first of all, this should be funding our military.
Right.
But it becomes a catch-all bill. Now, we were promised, conservatives were promised, that the anti-central bank digital currency language would be in this bill. It is not. And look, President Trump actually banned CBDCs back in January. I think like the 3rd or 4th day he was in office, he banned them.
Yeah.
But we have to codify that EO in Congress. That's our job. To just show you how dangerous they are, China uses a central bank digital currency to manufacture a social score that then says what you are allowed to buy or not allowed to buy.
Yeah.
So if we do this, this is dangerous. It's not, and look, I'm a budget hawk, but this is a dangerous development.
Yeah.
This is one of the stools of a true surveillance state that we do not want to put in place.
It's very dangerous indeed, and I don't think enough people are sounding the alarm on the incoming digital surveillance state that I think is very likely in our near future. I mean, the Bible starkly warns about this, right? Revelation 13, Mark of the Beast, and the CBDC is really the pathway to allowing all of that to happen, I think. So we need to be working super hard against allowing this into our country. I'm so grateful that you're talking about this. You're one of the very few. Tell us more about why this legislation wasn't included. I think it was originally promised in the Genius Act, is that correct? And then
it was promised in the negotiations for the entire cryptocurrency policy package.
Okay.
So it was the Tom Emmer bill. We had the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, and the Anti-CBDC Act. So it was part of that package because we knew that the anti-CBDC would not get through the Senate.
Right.
We knew that.
Okay.
So we put it. We had the promise, the explicit promise, to put it in a must-pass bill.
Yeah.
Because the NDAA is one of our few, it has to pass every year.
Yeah.
So that was the promise.
Yes.
And that's why it was so disappointing, so disheartening when it was not included in the bill.
Right. So what are your thoughts on perhaps just having standalone legislation for this instead of including it in all these bills? I mean, it seems to be a recurring issue here is that, you know, all this stuff is jam-packed into a piece of legislation. No one has time to actually look through it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a standalone bill still requires 60 votes in the Senate. So you're not going to get 7 or 8, depending on how many you need, 7 to 8 Democrat senators in the Senate to vote for this. So that's why we have to attach it to something that is a must-pass bill.
Okay.
The other idea is to put it into if there is a second reconciliation package, because reconciliation packages only need 51 votes in the Senate. So that's the other idea. They're working on a second reconciliation package. That's an idea as well.
So it seems like a lot of the issues are in the Senate currently. So many things get messed up over there or held up over there. We're hearing a lot about nuking the filibuster. Where do you stand on that? Would that aid in this particular issue?
Well, it certainly would. I think I am coming around to the fact that we may need to do that because if you go back in history, we would not have abolished slavery if the cloture vote had been in place. It's what we call the filibuster. Look, the Senate will always have the opportunity to stand up and talk at the mic as long as you can, 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's the filibuster. That's a true filibuster. But the cloture vote, the 60-vote rule, is what they're talking about doing away with. And if you think back in history, we would have never abolished slavery if we had had the cloture vote.
Wow. And we know Democrats would be very quick to nuke the filibuster if and when they ever get into power too, right? So why not just...
That's absolutely correct. That's the reasoning. So it used to work, but in this extremely divided nation, the gulf between the right and the left is growing. So that's why it no longer works. Now the Senate truly can stop anything they don't like, which means it's now dysfunctional.
It is completely dysfunctional. And I think that's where a lot of people are fed up with what's going on today. But I did also want to get your thoughts on some other angles of the NDAA. We're hearing, I mean, Lauren Boebert's reporting there was, aside from the anti-CBDC legislation not being included, DEI madness, more money to Ukraine. It allows men and women's spaces in the military academies. I actually asked Speaker Mike Johnson about that. It was weird because I was at his press conference the other day and he was just raving about the NDAA, didn't really touch on any of the concerning provisions that we're talking about right now. And when I asked him about the men and women's spaces in the military academies, he said that was dealt with in the BBBB and it wasn't really a concern of his. But my question is, how does that make sense? And if a law is passed and then another law changes, doesn't it amend the law that was previously passed? So will men be allowed in women's spaces again?
Well, that's exactly right. Laws are not sacrosanct once they're passed. They can be changed. Look, I'm a graduate of West Point, the United States Military Academy, and I believe that that language needs to be in it. But what you brought up is, again, the point that the NDAA becomes a catch-all bill.
Right.
Because it no longer just funds our military. In fact, it doesn't fund our military. It simply authorizes what we want the military to look like. The Appropriations Committee is where dollars are actually appropriated to DOD.
I don't know. It's a little disappointing when President Trump is making all of these promises to the American people, the America First agenda, and then it seems like these bills pass through, and then it totally combats all of the efforts that he's making. And we know that a lot of what he's doing is only done through executive orders. So we're really hoping Congress does the right thing here and codifies a lot of these measures into law.
It's a great point. It really is, because we need to be codifying his EOs, his hundreds of EOs, as fast as we can.
Right.
I think they said there would have been like 15 codified in the NDAA. I think that's the number that they were saying. But that's still a small number compared to what Trump has done with EOs, with executive orders. So yes, we need to be working on them because, fact of the matter is, there will be a new president in 2029, January of 2029. So we need to be working hard to make sure that his EOs extend past the Trump presidency.
Absolutely, and amen to that. So again, thank you for working on that, because it seems like just not enough is getting done. So we're so grateful for you. But I want to also get into the healthcare issue, because I know this is another big talk of the town right now. Everyone's worried about their skyrocketing premiums, which have already been rising under Obamacare. We're at this strange point where these Obamacare subsidies are set to expire at the end of this year. This is a date that Democrats themselves set, right? And now Democrats want to continue to extend these subsidies. Many Republicans want to just reform Obamacare entirely. Where do you stand on this?
Well, let's make sure we understand the subsidies we're talking about. These are the COVID era temporary subsidies, not the subsidies under Obamacare, under the normal subsidies. So these subsidies only impact 7% of the people that are under Obamacare, very small percentage. And they account for a very small percentage of all of the premium increases that you're seeing. So the Democrats are saying these increases are because of these subsidies that are about to expire. Not so. Only a very small part, very small percentage of the premium increases that people are already seeing are from these temporary COVID era subsidies. Look, the fact that we have Obamacare, we have subsidies, and we have temporary subsidies, we're piling subsidies on top of subsidies to simply keep Obamacare breathing, if I can use a healthcare analogy.
That's a good one. I like that. So generally speaking, what would you like to see happen? Obviously, let these COVID era subsidies expire, but as far as like the bigger picture healthcare looking into the new year, what do you want to see happen?
Great question. We need to let these expire. We then need to get into basic ideas of transparency, doctor-patient relationship, reform the PBM process, the drug pricing process. And so those are the big ideas. Now we've got HSAs, we've got association impacts that we can have, but all of those are general. So we've got several ideas. Senator Rick Scott has the More Affordable Care Act. Andy Biggs has put out a letter with like 15 ideas. So to say we don't have ideas is not correct. We need to coalesce around them. We need to get the three committees of jurisdiction to look at these ideas and to put together a package that will indeed reform Obamacare. That's what we need. Now, frankly, I think that if we put together a good package and we put it alongside Obamacare, Obamacare will wither on the vine. If we can just put together a package that will have more transparency, cheaper costs, better access, more transparency, people will choose that of their own free will. So we won't have to kill Obamacare. It will die on the vine if we simply put together a better package.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to see happen.
Okay. And then I did want to get your thoughts too on the Rand Paul proposal. I don't know if you've looked into it much, but basically he's saying let Americans buy healthcare insurance through places like Costco or Amazon. It would be a national buying co-op, and then it would then in turn negotiate lower premiums and HSAs for everyone. Does that
I
sound like
think
something?
we ought to look at it.
Yeah.
Because this is the point. Republicans have ideas. Let's get them into the committees of jurisdiction. Let's look at them. Let's vet them. Let's put together a package that we can coalesce around. Happy to look at Senator Paul's ideas. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's certainly an interesting option, one that hasn't really been considered before, and I think it would be so beneficial to the American people, so definitely check it out. The bottom line is here, I know Obamacare is just riddled with fraud and abuse of the whole system. In fact, Senator Thune and Speaker Johnson were just highlighting the other day that there was a government watchdog group that set up a number of these fake accounts and discovered that 90% of Obamacare subsidies were granted without any documentation. So no income verification, no social security number. I mean, how can we allow a system that is so corrupt to continue on? How do Democrats justify this?
Well, you can't. You cannot justify it. And frankly, a lot of the money that was going out under the subsidies was going directly from the federal taxpayer into the insurance company pockets.
Yeah.
So we were making the insurance companies rich,
Right.
often where there were no claims.
Yeah.
So why in the world are the taxpayers paying for a program that has no claims?
Exactly.
It is unconscionable.
It really is, and it's sad because so many of these Democrats have their constituents believing that they've got to have this.
Absolutely.
And then it's just, not even benefiting them at all. So it's very sad. As we know, the last time the government shut down, it was because the Democrats were pushing this healthcare issue so hard. They didn't even get what they wanted out of it,
Right.
which is the irony in all of this. But what do you think? Are we looking at another potential government shutdown if we don't get this healthcare issue sorted out in the near future?
Well, I think it's going to take us longer than that to coalesce around a program.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's going to be the reason for the shutdown.
Okay.
Because you have to ask, what would they hope to get in the short term? Because look, we were 43 days shut down last time.
Yeah.
So would they expect to get a health care plan across in a week? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So we're going to move as fast as possible. But frankly, changing healthcare, this is a tremendous percentage of the entire GDP, of the entire economy in the United States.
Absolutely.
So we've got to get it right.
Right.
And I think that takes more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because we've got so many ideas out there, Republican ideas. We've got to make sure we package them correctly so that we benefit the taxpayers now, so we give them better access to health care, cheaper prices, cheaper drug prices, and we put the patient and the doctor back in charge of health care, not the insurance companies.
Absolutely, amen to that. But because this is a lengthy process and takes time, and rightfully so, we want it to be a success. Do you think we run the risk of then looking at another government shutdown here at the end of January?
I don't think anybody wants another shutdown.
Okay.
I would be shocked if the Democrats wanted to make another run at that.
Okay.
You never can tell, though, because the progressive left
Yeah.
is in charge of the Democrat Party today.
Yeah.
So, Bernie Sanders, AOC, will they force their party to do something outlandish? Perhaps.
You never know with these crazy Democrats. It's wild times we're living through. Just looking ahead, what do you think about, the midterms are not far off, just around the corner, 2026. It seems like a lot of Trump supporters, hardcore American patriots, are a little bit distraught with the lack of progress being made in Congress, with accountability for much of the corruption that we saw under the Biden regime. What would your thoughts and words be to the American people that are maybe not really excited for the 2026 election?
Well, I think the economy is going to be the issue.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think the economy will be the issue in the midterms. So it's less than 6 months since we passed the Working Families Tax Cuts Act. And so we're starting to see the green shoots there. But it takes a while to turn this because the Biden economy was so devastating to the middle class. It was. The inflation just hollows out the middle class. The housing market, I think, is a real key to the midterms. We've got to find a way to make the housing market more affordable for people. But inflation, cost at the grocery store, all of those I think are going to be important. Now we're starting to see it turn. We're starting to see manufacturing jobs come back. We're starting to see certain prices come down, but prices are sticky.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got to have the growth that will come from the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, but it takes a while. So I am very hopeful that about the time we see our federal income tax returns, I think that's when we'll start to see the mood of the country turn. Because yes, people need to feel the impact of the Working Families Tax Cuts Act. They need to feel that they're doing better. They need to feel that the prices are better, that their income is better. They need to be just optimistic about the future. I think that's the key to the midterms.
For sure, I totally am with you on that. And it takes time, obviously, to implement many of these measures that President Trump has been working so hard on. But in the interim, Democrats are really running with this narrative that they're the ones who are going to provide affordability and that everyone needs to vote Democrat if they want to see these changes made. So what is the message from Republicans in the interim until they start really feeling the positive impacts of what Trump has done as we approach the midterms?
We can't let the Democrats sweep under the rug the fact that the Biden administration was so destructive to America. The 10 plus million people that they let across the border, the abuse of the H-1B visa program, the inflation, the Green New Scam, on and on and on. We cannot let them sweep that under the rug. That they broke it. We're trying to fix it.
That's right.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
Never let them forget. Well, Congressman, thank you so much for all the great work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us here at LindellTV.
You bet.
We appreciate it.